The passing of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi is a momentous occasion that evokes a mix of emotions and reflections, as you heard there, as the nation bids farewell to a prominent figure of South Africa's political and cultural landscape. We continue to look at the full scope of his legacy. Prince Buthelezi played a significant role in the complex tapestry of the country's history. His leadership spanned the tumultuous ebbs and flows of the nation's liberation struggle, the crucial transition that ushered in South Africa's freedom in 1994, and of course the establishment of its democratic dispensation. However, this legacy is intertwined with a painful chapter in Lesotho's history as well. This includes its role in Operation Boleas, a brutal military operation of Lesotho, orchestrated by South Africa on September 2022, 1998, almost 25 years ago. Joining us to dissect this legacy is the issue and the Issues Media Institute of Southern Africa, Lesotho chairperson Kananelo Boluedze. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us. Let's just start with the literature. At some point, Prince Buthelezi saying that he himself orchestrated this invasion of Lesotho, particularly as at that time he was caretaker president. Some had said within a day it took Prince Buthelezi a day to invade Lesotho. Is this an accurate way of framing the set of events in history?
Thank you very much, and thanks for hosting me. I would like to say from the start, yes, Mr. Mangosuthu Buthelezi was the acting president of South Africa at that time when the invasion of Lesotho by South Africa happened. We can remember, I think, as Batutu, we can remember. And as South Africans, you can recall that Nelson Mandela, who was president then, was abroad in the United States of America. His deputy, Mr. Thabo Mbeki, was also outside of South Africa. And then the then Minister of Home Affairs, Mangosuthu Buthelezi, was left in charge. Yes, that's what we could say was the scenario at that time.
I want to look at media and scholarly commentary on the intervention itself. Some have said perhaps we shouldn't be too quick to judge because there was insufficient effort to chronicle and clarify the issue. Some say declassified archival records and interviews of policymakers actually provide a more exhaustive explanation of how the Mandela administration decided on the deployment of troops in Lesotho. Now, we've just spoken about individuals that were not there. So can we lay this down to the Mandela administration, and how was this decision arrived at? Was it a culmination of other events before it as well?
Yes, there was some events that were happening in Lesotho, and I cannot deny that there was some political instability in Lesotho before this invasion happened. And I like that you used the term invasion or the term military intervention. Some say it was a military intervention, but as Basotho say, it was a military invasion because, as we can remember, I think it was as recent as 2020, 2019, 2021, the South African military was invited to Mozambique for an intervention. I want to say it was an intervention because as South Africans, you knew what was happening in Mozambique, and you knew that your military was going to intervene in Mozambique. But in Lesotho, that was not the case. You know, when Basotho was sleeping, all of a sudden there were soldiers, South African soldiers in the country, shooting and killing people. That's why we say it was an invention, because there was no transparency. Basotho did not know that they will wake up to some bombs and gunshots, yes. So I would like to admit that there was instability in Lesotho. And the Prime Minister of Lesotho at that time had requested an assistance or an intervention from SADC, not an invasion, but an intervention from SADC. But what South Africa did was not an intervention, but it was an invasion. Because, like I'm saying, nobody knew that the following day there would be South African soldiers in Lesotho shooting and killing people. That's why we are saying it was an invention, not an intervention.
And perhaps to further understand this distinction, so others have written that barely a month after Zimbabwe, Angola and Namibia claimed SADC auspices for their then considered controversial intervention in the Democratic Republic of Congo, then South Africa and Botswana decided to launch what they see as a peace enforcement operation in Lesotho. So as you say, from the Lesotho perspective, as much as there's an acknowledgement of instability, you viewed this as an invasion. So was this done under the SADC framework, and was it the correct one in the analysis of how South Africa chose to launch the operation?
Yeah, thank you very much, because so many things have happened between 1998 and now. I think you would recall that as recent as 2014, we had some instability in Lesotho. There was what some people say was an attempted coup. And then the then Deputy President of South Africa, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, intervened, and there was a dialogue between the government and the opposition. That culminated into an election. But then we had what we called a sub-mill. That was a military intervention by SADC. But it was decided at the SADC summit, and Basuti knew after that summit that there will be a military intervention. And so many countries have decided to say, we are going to send our troops into Lesotho. So Basuti knew that so many countries have decided to say they will send troops to Lesotho, and we are expecting so many soldiers to come to Lesotho, and these soldiers will come to Lesotho at this particular time, and they will leave after a certain period of time. But in 1998, these things did not happen. There was no summit where it was decided that you are going to send soldiers to Lesotho.
And it's such a pity that the quality of a conversation has deteriorated, because I actually just did want to continue with this conversation and further understand, especially the impact of how this has informed not only South Africa, but SADC in itself, of how they deal with peacekeeping missions, and also the definition of the instability. Was it protests, and the nature of those protests, or military exigencies, as some have labeled it? But thank you so much for your time.